call PC Raymond Chick of Fulchester Traffic Patrol.
Police Constable Raymond Chick.
The defendant in this case is charged with spying. Squadron Leader Colin Pardo has pleaded not guilty to an offence under Section 1 of the Official Secrets Act 1911. It is alleged that for a purpose prejudicial to the safety or interests of the state, he made notes relating to the performance of an operational guided missile, which might be, directly or indirectly, useful to an enemy. The notes in question were found in Squadron Leader Pardo's possession after his car had struck a lamppost on the Fulchester bypass and he was rendered unconscious. The officer who first attended the scene was...
Raymond Chick, Police Constable 288, Fulchester Traffic Patrol, my lord.
Now, at about 8 p.m. on the 23rd of September last, you were patrolling the Fulchester bypass when you came across the scene of an accident, I believe.
Yes, sir.
Now, would you tell us about it and what action you took?
I saw a saloon car which had struck a lamppost dead on. I stopped and I went to the vehicle. The driver was slumped forward in his seat, apparently unconscious. A young woman was in the passenger seat. She was conscious, but she seemed badly shocked.
Did you speak to her?
Yes, sir. But she answered in a foreign language and I couldn't understand her.
Now, could you identify this language?
I'm sorry, sir, no.
I see. Continue, please.
I called for an ambulance and the assistance of other officers. A short while later, I accompanied the driver and the passenger in the ambulance to Fulchester Central Hospital, where they were taken to the casualty department.
Did any conversation take place during this journey?
The woman spoke in English. She asked what had happened, and I told her. She said she didn't want to go to hospital. I said it was for the best and it wouldn't take long. She seemed anxious about it.
Now, did she ask after the welfare of the driver?
No, sir.
And after you arrived at the hospital?
They were placed in separate cubicles in the casualty department. I left them to speak to the casualty officer.
And when you returned?
The woman had disappeared.
What did you do?
Well, I searched, but she'd apparently just walked out. The driver was still unconscious, so after the doctor had examined him, I went through his pockets to try and identify him.
And were you able to?
Yes, sir. There were documents relating to a squadron leader in the RAF with a name and address.
Now, did you find anything else?
Yes, sir. A handwritten document which seemed to relate to a guided missile.
Now, what did you do?
Well, I was suspicious of the circumstances, so I contacted Fulchester Police Special Branch.
And as a result of this contact, what occurred?
Well, I was instructed to retain the document and remain with the driver. I did this, and later I handed the document to Group Captain Porterman, RAF Rushden Down.
Now, do you see the driver involved in that accident in court today?
I do, sir. The defendant, Squadron Leader Pardo.
Finally, I would like you to look at this photograph, if you would. This will be Exhibit 1, my lord. Now, do you recognise anyone in that photograph?
Yes, sir. The man is the defendant, and the woman's the same one that was with him on the night of the accident and later disappeared from the hospital.
Thank you, officer. Remain where you are, please.
Did you speak to the defendant at any time?
No, sir. He had not recovered consciousness when I was relieved by 2 RAF police officers.
Yes. Now, you say that the girl did not ask after the driver's condition.
She did not, sir.
Did that surprise you?
No, sir. She could see that he was unconscious. People in shock don't act normally.
You're unable to identify the language the girl spoke, but perhaps we could narrow it down a little. For example, could it have been Chinese?
Oh, no, sir. It was sort of guttural, perhaps like German.
Like German? Thank you, officer. Now, this accident, did you form any opinion as to what caused it?
Well, sir, there was no other vehicle involved, and there were no tyre marks on the road. It seems that the driver lost control, or lost concentration, perhaps.
Yes, thank you. No further questions.
Does your lordship have any questions?
No, thank you, Mr. Dealey.
Thank you, officer. I call Group Captain Porterman, please.
Group Captain Porterman, please.
Group Captain Porterman, you are the commanding officer of RAF Rushden Down.
I am.
And as such, the accused is under your command.
Yes.
Now, how long has he been stationed at RAF Rushden Down?
Just over 4 years.
In what capacity?
As an AE, he's a qualified engineer. He's responsible for the maintenance and operational fitness of aircraft on his wing.
Now, does this include the weaponry attached to this aircraft?
Oh, yes, indeed.
Now, specifically, it includes an air-to-air missile fitted to the aircraft at RAF Rushden Down, which I believe is known by the nickname the Banshee.
That is so.
And he would have an intimate knowledge of this missile?
Yes.
Now, can we take it that Squadron Leader Pardo was familiar with the security regulations that covered his work?
Yes. 3 weeks to the day before the accident, I'd issued him with a booklet containing the latest amendments to RAF security regulations. He signed for these and to say that he was conversant with current regulations.
And in fairness, there is nothing unusual about this procedure.
No, every officer receives and signs for a copy of RAF regulations. As amendments are issued, he receives and signs for these, as I've said.
So Squadron Leader Pardo would have known that his possession of notes on matters subject to security regulations off camp was contrary to his instructions.
No doubt at all. In fact, 2 days after I'd issued him with the amendments, I heard him joking in the mess with an officer to the effect that regulations seem to cover everything except walking off camp with what might be held in a man's brain. No doubt they'd get round to this in time.
So he took a light-hearted view of these security regulations then?
No, I got the impression that he was making a valid point in a light-hearted way. That is something different.
Now, what was the first that you knew of this matter?
When I was approached by Fulchester police with the news of the accident.
And as a result of what you were told, what did you do?
I saw a senior police officer in my office. Later, I was given some handwritten notes. I instructed the guard commander to send 2 men to stay with Squadron Leader Pardo.
You placed him in custody?
Not at this point. He was merely under supervision.
A fine distinction, Group Captain.
Possibly, sir.
Very well. You accepted these notes and you placed him under supervision. Were these notes in his handwriting, the defendant's?
Yes, my lord.
And do you produce these notes?
I do.
These will be Exhibit 2, my lord.
And to what do these notes relate in general terms?
They were technical notes, sir, relating to data on the missile, the Banshee.
Thank you. Very well, Mr. Deedy.
I'm obliged, my lord. Now, having seen these notes, and having heard what the police officer had told you, what action did you take?
I called in my security officer, Squadron Leader Davis, briefed him, gave him the notes, instructed him to investigate the matter and report back to me.
And did he do so?
Yes, I then incorporated his report in my own to the Ministry of Defence.
Now, as commanding officer, you have wide powers to deal locally with breaches of discipline, even security, I believe.
That is so.
But on this occasion, you did not do so. Why was that?
Because the circumstances in this case seem to me too serious to permit me to do that.
Exactly. Now let us come, if we may, to the man himself, Squadron Leader Pardo. Now, I believe that you know this man particularly well.
Yes, I was a personal friend of his wife's father. We served together. Perhaps I know him better than some of my officers.
Now, in the period immediately prior to his accident, was he at all upset, perturbed?
My lord, my learned friend is leading his witness.
Yes, I agree. Some rephrasing is called for, I think, Mr. Deedy.
Very well, my lord. In the period over which this court is concerned, have you any comment to make about his general demeanour?
It would be fair to say that at the time of the accident, or rather just prior to it, he did seem unusually reserved, introspective, aloof almost, but this hadn't affected his work, and I put this down to domestic problems.
Now, why should you do that, Group Captain?
Because I knew that there were problems at home.
What sort of problems?
I don't think I'm the best person to answer that.
With respect, Group Captain, you are not the best judge of that. I do appreciate that all of this must be extremely distasteful to you, but your duty is clear, and that is to answer the questions.
All right, I apologize.
Thank you. Now, to your knowledge, what was the nature of these domestic problems?
Well, Jane, Mrs. Pardo, seemed upset, I think because she suspected he was having an affair.
Do you know for certain that that was the reason for any strain that might have existed between them? Could there not have been other problems, financial ones, for example?
Oh, my lord, I object. If my learned friend's questions do not produce the answers that he'd like, he cannot then lead the witness into another channel which is more acceptable to him.
Quite so. And I am sure that you are aware of that fact, Mr. Deedy.
Very well, my lord. I shall approach the matter from another direction.
Good.
What is Squadron Leader Pardo's salary?
With allowances in the region of $3,500 a year.
Now, you know this family particularly well. In your opinion, did their standard of living reflect this sort of income?
Their standard of living suggested a salary rather higher than that.
I see. This did not concern you?
No, I knew that Jane contributed to the family finances. When her parents died, she was left fairly well off.
And presumably she still is.
I can't be sure of that. I assume so.
So Squadron Leader Pardo could be said to be absolutely financially stable.
I'm afraid not.
I see. Now, why do you say that?
Because I had occasion to speak to him about part of a mess bill that remained unpaid.
When was this?
This was 2 days before the accident.
So, Squadron Leader Pardo, earning, as you say, something in the region of £70 a week, was unable to pay part of his mess bill. Now, how much exactly was it that he could not pay?
The amount outstanding was £7.52.